All right. Usually, but most likely in the morning when my brain gets fully engaged.
I'm usually free in the morning before like 10, except for Thursday.
Okay. No Thursday.
Yeah.
All right. Kristen, no Thursday. All righty. Before 10, that's perfect. Like I said, I can get up at 5. All righty. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good rest of your weekend.
Yeah, enjoy your weekend, guys. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Oof. Must have a power outage here that I don't know about. Aw, come on. Damn it. Boy, that algorithm stinks. Just when I'm trying to do this, Indeed wants to send me 30,000 jobs. Goodness. Goodness. What fun. Four. Yep. Oh, goodness. Yeah, if I turned down the volume so we didn't repeat over ourselves, that'd be good. Oh, goodness. We are about. Oops. Microphone helps. We are about 3 minutes from going live. 2 minutes, kids. Boy. 2 minutes. Come on. I definitely had a power failure somewhere in this house. Basically had to reset everything. We had a power failure here somewhere that I didn't know about. I think yesterday.
Interesting. In the Lehigh Valley?
In the Hellertown area, we saw news online that part of Hellertown was out because there was actually an electrical fire at our local diner.
Oh my.
And it took out like half the borough of Hellertown. But we must have lost power too because we had a partial somewhere along the way. Because I've had to reset almost everything.
Wow, that's interesting. Can you hear me well on this?
Absolutely.
It's a lot better?
Got one, yeah. Oh,
It-
it is. It's absolutely better. There's
Yeah.
no echo. It's
Okay.
a lot bassier. It's a lot more real, and there's no echo.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting that like more bass sound. I sounded too high pitched, I think. I can hear myself like I'm closed in. I don't like you're more aware of how you sound.
Yeah, and
I'm like-
you should hear yourself. That's exactly how it should go, and it's one of the really cool technological things about radio is when Kristen can literally be 3 feet from me, but I don't pick her up on my microphone, and it's a real neat thing.
Oh,
But-
you're right.
Okay.
Like I have an air conditioning in the background. Can you hear that?
No.
Wow, that's
fans,
awesome.
I got fans running. Okay, actually, we need to start. Where am I here? Where am I? I lost my program. Hang on. We will be live. Like as soon as I can get started here. Okay. Here we go. Oh wow, what a great time to get, that tickle in your throat just when you're going to start your program. Welcome from our humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, in the township formerly known as Lower Saucon, Bethlehem Township, Bethlehem Landfill Township now, after the outright purchase of waste management of our township council. I've come to call them the four fascists. Kind of rolls off the tongue. It's pretty cool. When you sell out an entire municipality, it's pretty sweet. It's profitable for some, not for everybody else. Part of in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in these United States, on this planet Earth, the only one. We have third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect for Sunday, July the 24th, 2022. And this is a program that was originally, if you will, unscheduled. we were thinking that we were not going to be with you this week because we were scheduled, Chris and I were scheduled to be in Philadelphia today, standing in front of City Hall at an awareness rally to bring attention to the extremely uneven tax distribution that is happening in our country. And it would be a very natural thing for me to talk about that. Given the fact that we were supposed to be there, it would be very natural for me to talk about that today. But that rally, gathering, meeting, protest, if you will, had to be postponed. And it had to be postponed for a very strikingly simple, yet really eye-opening reason. And it led me to believe, as we were working through the week and we got notice that we would not be at this protest, and I had to decide if I was going to come with you live today or just kind of not, because I had already said we wouldn't be here, etc., 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 that it gave me kind of an opportunity, albeit last minute, if you will, to talk about why this rally was canceled. And if you pay attention to the news at all, and I'm quite aware that most of my audience is pretty tuned in to daily news and events and issues and so on. So you might kind of know where I'm going. But if you're not, let me take a little bit of time to explain. So we were supposed to meet and have this gathering, this rally, this, camaraderie. Because I think sometimes when we say protest, it's a little bit of a throwaway. There's so much more to them, I think, than that most of the time. These are awareness-building events in many ways. And not to mention, by the way, it's your constitutional right to gather and do such things. At least for now. We do have the current makeup of the Supreme Court. We could lose that at any day. So, but that said, the protest was canceled for weather. We just let that sit there with you for a second, because if you're anywhere in my area of Bethlehem Landfill Township, you look outside, the sun is shining, there's literally barely a cloud in the sky. But you would notice that it's just a bit warm. And if any of you are familiar with the setup and structure of City Hall in Philadelphia, it's not exactly a lot of shade there. Let's put it that way. There's no trees around City Hall. It is City Hall Plaza. It is entirely tarmac and concrete, except for the fountain on one side and a couple of archways where you can cut through and so on. But you can't exactly have a protest gathering meeting with several hundred people in that crammed little archway. So why was it canceled then? Well, the expected air temperature in Philadelphia today was expected to be 100 degrees. In fact, you know how much I chastise myself for researching things with you live on the air. Let me have a look at what it is right now. Now, it doesn't appear as if it hit that mark, but it is currently 96 degrees in Philadelphia with a feel temperature of 99. It is completely sunny, no clouds in the sky. And I will see if I can find you and only 34% humidity, which is actually something we're going to get into. And a forecast for severe thunderstorms, finally. And if you've grown up like I did, or you're roughly my age, you'll know why I said that. Currently, right now, in the borough of Hellertown, Pennsylvania, which is, I'd rather we were part of that than Landfill Township, I can tell you. It is 95, not a cloud in the sky. And the feel temperature is 100. The relative humidity here is 38%. And a mere 50 miles, roughly speaking, from Center City, Philadelphia, we have no thunderstorm warning. And so that led me to think maybe it's time that we talk about, as Senator Sanders would refer to, the existential crisis that is global climate destruction, climate change, what The Guardian now refers to in its reporting on a regular basis as global heating, as does the BBC, by the way. But not necessarily from a deeply scientific point of view, although the two are inescapable and you cannot disconnect the one from the other. But to talk about it from perhaps a more practical point of view, if you will, a more pragmatic point of view. So what the hell do I mean by that? Well, because he does mean something. I am getting somewhere, I promise you. When I was a kid, way back in the dark ages when we used stone tablets and, ravens to send messages to each other, not electronically like we do now. I could probably count, if I really taxed my brain, I could probably count on one hand when I would go out backyard, go up to the neighborhood where all my buddies were, where we played Nerf football and wiffle ball on the street and tag and, did some Halloween shenanigans and on and on and on. I could probably count on one hand the number of days where it ever really reached 100. Because it's not unprecedented. It's not that we've never hit 100 before. It's that now it seems to be normal. Much more regular. In fact, I can remember having conversations with my buddies when I was 8, 10, 12, and we were in the middle of these, our shenanigans on our bikes, riding places we probably shouldn't have, and always told mom and dad, no, we'll stay right in the neighborhood, and then kind of didn't. If it broke 90, we thought it was a big deal. Upper 80s was a hot summer. In my entire youth, we had one tornado warning. They are now a common occurrence. In a commonwealth of Pennsylvania that has lots of mountains in it. Why does that matter? I was always taught in school that tornadoes didn't form in hilly and mountainous areas, but only flat areas, because the tornado itself couldn't travel that way. We actually had a tornado not too long ago, I think it was in the spring, actually, that went over the Delaware River from Pennsylvania into New Jersey. I saw hail once when I was a child. It is now a common occurrence. Ice in the summer, sometimes the size of an orange or softball, golf ball sized, billions of dollars in property damage. So I wanted to talk today about the reality of global climate destruction, but to try to talk to you about it in a way, again, that is not overly complex or scientific, but to simply have a chat with all of you about the idea that I believe, maybe I am overly optimistic, although I am very rarely ever accused of being optimistic. I'm a pessimist by nature. That you know something's wrong. I think the vast majority of you know something's wrong. And that's just right here in the Lehigh Valley and in Pennsylvania, where Christopher is joining me from right now. That's just here. We'll get into the fact that the leading climate scientists in the United Kingdom, Great Britain, have declared Great Britain no longer a temperate climate. It is now a 4-season climate. Spain, Portugal, Italy are quite literally on fire, as is France. The recent 100+ degree heat that we saw hit the UK this past week was air that came up in a direct current from sub-Saharan Africa, that the jet streams didn't stop it because they don't work anymore. So we'll get into London, let me back up. England, as a kingdom, so to speak, has been keeping weather records since the 1600s. Think about that. Since before there were settlers, I should say white European settlers, on the North American continent, because we already know there were tens of millions of inhabitants here, that's a whole different show. Before the first white European settlers made permanent settlements in North America, I did not forget about the Vikings talking about permanent settlements. Probably should have used a better analogy. They've been keeping weather records. This past week, London hit 104 degrees. The hottest recorded single-day temperature in the history of recorded weather records in the city of London. Newcastle on the Scottish border hit the upper 90s. Manchester was in the upper 90s. Only 5% of all the buildings, business or residential, in the United Kingdom have air conditioning. Scores of people died in their homes because they simply couldn't breathe. They're not made for it. I mean, they're just biologically not made for it. They don't have fans, just simple fans. I've got 2 fans running into the studio right now, plus the AC, the central air in the house is running. They're not made for it. The same way that, you know, your great Aunt Pearl, who moved to Florida 40 years ago, comes up here for Christmas and can't function. The Brits aren't made for it. The Germans I saw taped footage of the Germans going to the north coast of Germany, which is the Baltic Sea, I believe. Kristen will correct me if I'm wrong. Or Chris will correct me if I'm wrong. Which I think is on the Baltic Sea. The north coast. The north coast of Germany, which is closer to the Arctic Circle than it is the equator, and closer to the Arctic Circle than it is even the Mediterranean Sea, to cool off. They used it as a beach. So what we want to talk about today, in a very long-winded opening, is what are you seeing? Just the realities of global climate destruction. The fact that 100-degree temperatures are normal, 95 plus is normal. Massive thunderstorms bordering on tornado, they look like mini hurricanes, are normal now. Hurricanes themselves are normal now. What does this mean for the future of the human race? We're going to have a chat about it at least until 7 o'clock. We'll see where it goes. It is 5:21 for all of you across the Facebook universe, and I think just shy this week of the 100 places that we have shared our program. We welcome every single last one of you. Little less turnout I see on Facebook today because I did 0 show announcements because I really got up to this morning before I decided whether I was even going to be with you, because I had told you all we were not going to be here. I can tell you pretty darn sure we're not going to be here next week, but I'll get into that. It's yet another place that Kristen and I have to be to show our beautiful, her beautiful face in my mug, to show that out in a public place to talk about the issues of the day. But that said, thank you for being here. To every group, to every individual, to every page, all of you, every single last one of you is exceptionally important. We could not be here if you are not there. Come on over to our home group Facebook page, that other side of information, and talk to us. Ask questions, comments, etc., etc., etc. Hot101.net, our friends, family, sisters, brothers at Hot101.net. We could simply proud every single week. I'm humbled and proud to be part of your family and be part of your listening day. However you consume Hot101.net, it is exceptionally simple to do. If you don't, our name is our web address. You can get to us at our main website, Hot101.net, on your desktop, laptop, phone, tablet, smart speaker, whatever it is. That's how you get to us. Apple App Store if you have an Apple device, Google Play Store for Android, and if you have any other type of device, you can use the TuneIn radio app. Just go up to the search bar and type in Hot101.net. And you can also tell Alexa to play Hot101.net. And also, we are back on the TCP Facebook page. The powers that be at TCP were kind enough to give me allow me a method to get onto their page after Facebook kind of redefined their page without their knowledge or without their doing. But we're back on their Facebook page. The morning show will be back tomorrow morning. And I actually look forward to joining them again soon in the morning, making the drive to the studio in Lancaster. We had a ball that day. I still talk about it. It was like 3 weeks ago, and I still talk about it. I think Kristen's probably sick of hearing about it, but I still talk about it. We had a ball that day. What was so much fun. Just really fun. And fit in like a glove. We talked that day like we've known each other for decades, and it was just a lot of fun. So check out TCP, The Culture Professional, a proud minority-owned business and growing, ever growing, in its depth, its footprint, and its effect on the community. Please be a part of it. And from right here in our own Commonwealth, Lancaster, PA. I will open up the phone line a little later, but let me get to my dear, dear friend who has been exceptionally patient while I've gone on this exceptionally long rant, and that is Christopher Cowardovich. He is the chair. He's not just sitting in a chair, he is the chair of the Pennsylvania Democratic Veterans Caucus. And Chris and I were talking, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about, what am I doing with this program today? I didn't have a guest. I wasn't sure I was going to be here and all. And then we just sort of drifted into a bit of a conversation like, geez, how hot is it by you? Oh, well, it's this and that. And we're like, we should just talk kind of simply and straightforwardly and in relatively simple language. Because, again, you can't separate what's happening when you walk out your door from the science of it. Wait till I get into ocean currents to explain why Britain is boiling, but it gets a little wonky, but it is. You can't avoid the science. And I said, well, we should just chat about that for a couple hours and see what happens. See where the conversation takes us. We'll see if the phone rings. We'll see how the comments are that come in and so on. So I welcome back to the program. I think you've taken the lead now, Chris. I think you might be the most frequented guest at this point. I think you may have overtaken Sergeant Mack.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
That's something.
Yeah.
So welcome home. Welcome
Well,
back. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for having me on today. You know, I agree with you. Just thinking about how crazy this weather has been, but I want to go back and think about this summer in terms of also how mild it was in the beginning. What you're also seeing is climate change. This is a change in the behavior. I remember I was walking about a week ago, talking to my neighbor and being like, we haven't had a hot summer. This has been a really mild summer up here in Pennsylvania. And one of the things that when we're looking at climate change, not to get too wonky here, but it's going to impact each community, each region in a different way. It's part of how it is. And I think what conservatives will do is they'll say, well, look, for a few weeks, it's been mild, so we don't have a problem. But that's not the reality. That's not what's going on. Look at it on the big picture, right? And I think there's a lot of climate change deniers who are looking for anything that they can kind of point to and be like, well, we're not having climate change because look at X, Y, and Z, or look at this 2 weeks we're having. No, that's part of what it is. And it's like, I like how you were talking about it being global heating, not global warming. California, we're just, it's sometimes with these fires, it's been hard to keep up in the news cycle. It really has been. And California is also starting to burn. We're seeing, but you know what I think? We're just so used to it by now. We're so used to fires in California. When there is a fire in California, we're just like, that's life.
Can I just tell you, that's so interesting that you just said that. It is a little, it's fun and sometimes a tad creepy to see how this friendship is developing, because you said California. And before, as you rolled straight into we've gotten used to it, in my own brain, I'm thinking, well, what else is new?
Wow.
We have become used to the fact that California burns.
Yep.
Just burns.
That's
Probably 9 out of 12 months of the year, they're just on fire.
And Jeff,
we've tended to step back and say, okay, well, California's on fire again.
right. That's what I thought when I heard you hadn't brought it up. I was like, and you were like, you'll correct me, and I'm like, okay, I'll correct him. But what was going through my mind is, of course, he forgot about it because it's so common. Or is this new? Is this a fire that was going on before? What am I pounding the alarm about in California? And
well, here's the difference, and it shocks me because I believe, anyway, it's my impression, I guess I should say that probably, that because from a news media standpoint, that we are so, even the media doesn't report it the same as they have in past years. We tend to get focused when we see something new or different.
Yep.
What's new and different? Arizona is on fire. New Mexico is on fire. Nevada had wildfires. Utah is now having massive wildfires. I mean, it was a year ago, I think it was, they had wildfires in Montana and Idaho and Wyoming. The West is burning because it's drying out.
Yeah.
I'm going to forget the name of the lake. I think I may have mentioned it last week, of the man-made lake. Folks, there are a series of man-made lakes throughout the West where rivers, sometimes even small rivers, were dammed for hydroelectric power. These were, oh, by the way, when when we come back, to the next more political show, damned for hydroelectric power by the New Deal. We can save that for another day. But, a New Deal works project. Again, I saw this article in The Guardian. I posted it at that other side of information. It's a little older. You're going to have to scroll to find it. And forgive me, I've forgotten the name of the lake. So there's a man-made lake that's, again, it's dammed up for hydroelectric. It supplies electricity literally to millions of people in the north, kind of the north central, northeast, bordering on the upper parts of Nevada, parts of California, like outside the Sacramento area. Even though when you see pictures of this lake, it looks very Grand Canyon-ish. That makes sense, you know, the orange rock and so on. Red rock, really. That dam is literally 1 year away. It is expected with current rainfall trends and the seriousness of the drought in the West, what is referred to as a mega drought, a 1,000-year drought event. Except that this one's been going on for 10 years. That lake is at 35% capacity. 35%. It is believed that if this pattern continues, by this time next year, the turbines in the dam will no longer have sufficient water pressure, if the water level even reaches it, to generate power. And hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, will quite literally have no electricity. So when we talk about climate destruction, climate degradation, if you will, as just as if it's nothing to be, you know, as if we can throw that away. Heat, violent precipitation, droughts. Now we're talking about an entire region having no electricity.
Yeah.
Because their river has dried up and the dam can't work anymore. I mean, what are we talking about here? What are we, you know, and all the things that's connected to, Chris, you know that. There's no snow on the mountains.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't melt in the spring. The lakes don't fill. It doesn't rain.
You know, to make it science a little more simplistic, it's the butterfly effect.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. You know, the flapping of wings over here have an impact over here. And to really boil the science down, I talked with my friend who's a physicist professor at University of Delaware. And he said something very interesting to me. And he's really explained so. We're talking all about climate change. And he kind of going around and everything. And he said, at the end of the day, we're just not that. The science hasn't come all that way in two ways. One, to be able to pinpoint exactly what the outcomes are going to be. But number two, how to deal with it. We don't have the science to keep polluting. We don't have, it's just kick the can down the road.
But isn't that two different things? Not having, I think we know exactly what we need to do. We don't have the political will to do it.
Well, we don't know what to do.
Fuel companies.
We don't know what to do once we ruin it, though. That's what. Once we,
yeah.
And I don't know if
Right.
we've reached that point. That's part of the problem. Part of these things is I don't know what to do about that dam. I don't know if we're going to restore that water.
Right.
That's a reality.
I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah, I
Sorry
mean,
about that, yeah.
And like we need action. I was talking with Senator Comita and I were talking about this yesterday. We always joke, like whenever we talk about the environment and some bill coming up and we're trying to work on it or something, Senator Comita and I always joke with her. I'm like, yeah, that's a bill we need to pass yesterday. She chuckles at me, and she's a big environmentalist. If you're not aware of that, to some people out there, but like that's what it is. It's like this stuff we need to get on it.
But also, folks who may not know, before ExxonMobil was ExxonMobil, it was Exxon and Mobil. They were two separate companies.
Yep.
And before Exxon was Exxon, it was ESSO, ESSO.
Mm-hmm.
And scientists within ESSO, as early as the late, and I mean like 58, 59, late 1950s, told the boards board of directors, we did some modeling, right? Pre-computer.
Yeah.
We did some modeling. If this continues, we are going to fundamentally change the composition of the atmosphere. And what we think that that's going to do is everything that we're seeing today. Esso was, even at that time, one of the largest corporations on the planet in total. And they were certainly, of course, one of the largest fossil fuel producers on the planet. Here's what I always find dumbfounding. These, especially in that day, this Mad Men era, fedoras and cigarettes for lunch, and that kind of, the 3 martini lunch, and the scotch waiting for you when you got home, when the wife handed you the rolled up newspaper to read, and so on, kids playing at your feet, etc., etc. Even then, scientists paid for, employed by a corporation, knew something was wrong. And these supposed captains of industry, the leaders of one of the largest corporations on the planet, instead of taking that information and saying, wow, we have kids too. Why don't we, what do we do about this as a corporation? What do we do about this?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could take 1%, even if we took 1% of our profits and began to transition the company into these other areas. Because we already knew, even in the late 50s,
Oh, yeah.
solar technology was very, very young, but it worked. NASA was using it.
Yeah.
The Soviets were using it with their spacecraft in the late 50s, early 60s. There was, we were using solar. We knew solar existed. We knew how to take sunlight and turn it into energy.
And we knew how to do wind.
We knew how to do wind, and we knew how to do hydro.
Yeah.
So you would think that these supposed captains of industry, these smart businessmen, and then of course they were all men at that point, would have said to themselves, why don't, even if they were driven purely by profit, why don't we become the first green company? Before green was even associated with all of these things.
Right.
Why don't we take 1% of our profits and see what the next phase of our corporation is? Could you imagine, Chris, if Esso, then Exxon, then ExxonMobil had taken even 1%, let alone 5%, 10% of their profits, and slowly per year transitioned themselves into a green energy company? They'd be the largest, quite possibly monopolistic green energy company on the planet, and would be staggeringly profitable. But they didn't do that. They made a conscious decision
But I don't.
to suppress that data and hide it and begin to spend that money on the suppression of climate science. And where are we today? It's 100 degrees, a third of the country's on fire, 20-something% of Australia is on fire, about 15 to 20% of Western Europe is on fire. People are collapsing and dying all over the Western European continent because they're getting heat they can't deal with. Sub-Saharan Africa is spreading. The Sahara Desert, by the way, is growing. Areas of India and Pakistan are becoming unlivable, with daily high temperatures in the 120-degree range. They suppressed all of that. I thought these were smart business people.
Yeah. It comes to
It's staggering to think about.
it really is. It really is to think and to question, why do we put so few people without any accountability in this much amount of power?
Well, there's
Yeah.
a name for that. The F word. There's
Yeah.
a name for it. That's exactly what fascism is, when the corporations run everything.
Yeah, or
And when they control
really
government.
an oligarchy controlling everything. There's other institutions that are involved, but a lot of the corporations are. And when it comes to let's talk about climate legislation for a moment. Let's look at that. I see two existential threats here with our dependency on fossil fuel. And I think the one that's really easy to see is the one we're dealing with today. It's also easy to deny when we have mild temperature. Climate change. That is really one of the big points that we do see. We can see it with our own eyes. But there's another threat that we haven't wanted to talk about. It's a threat that's been going on since the 1970s. Dependency on foreign oil. Dependency on imported petroleum. Listen, when Joe Biden wanted to put on the tax to drill baby drill, as they used to say, oh, we're all for drill baby drill, build drill baby drill. When Joe Biden put forth the legislation, what do Republicans do? They buck it. They buck it hard. No, you can't force companies, the good business people, you can't cook those folks to do anything. So we can't drill. We're not going to pass a renewable energy plan. Biden bring gas prices down, right? We see Biden bring gas prices down. Republicans' energy policy is outsource it to the Middle East, and you all pay $10 a gallon. That's what we'll be at. We don't see this legislation coming. If there is a time after the war in Ukraine to see what we've given Russia, how much power with this energy they have. Russia has way more power than it had almost in the Soviet Union on a political global stage. Unfortunately, Russia, maybe as a Soviet Union as a whole, could have been equal, but Russia itself has more power than it's ever been in. And it's because we're unwilling to pass a national it's our security plan. This is a security issue. It's your life. It's your life. It's your basic essentials, right? Aspects of it, your safety issues, your ability to get the blood life of modernity, electricity, right? So, I just see that all this, oh, well, inflation's high. What's going to happen if gas goes up to $10 a gallon? We need to transition off gasoline. We can't put this unstable position. It is, we should be passing a climate legislation, and listen to me clearly here, and I'm going to stand by this, in the trillions, not the billions. Because, we spent between 1.9 to $6.4 trillion on the Iraq war, depending on the numbers of it. This is a bigger security risk than the Iraq war. We're talking Russia, 1,500 nuclear warheads that they have not ruled off the table of using in war. What is wrong with Washington? Half your country's on fire. You're at war with a Soviet dictator.
Yeah.
Okay? And the pathway out of that is through the renewable energy that we have it. Now, maybe we don't have enough to get us to 100% renewable. I'm not talking about that. It's not what we're talking about this moment, right? That's not we're not saying the $6 trillion plan, although we spent $6 trillion in the Middle East. So, we have the money for a $6 trillion war.
And spend about 1.2 trillion if you believe Senator Sanders' numbers. Between 850 billion, and Senator Sanders would tell you it's more on the lines of 1.2, 1.3 trillion dollars per year on the Defense Department.
Oh yeah. So this is defense.
Mm-hmm.
This is defense spending.
Well, one of the primary global security threats that the Department of Defense outlines every single year in its threat assessment report and public hearings to Congress is global climate change.
Preach.
It's global climate change. Our own Department of Defense talks about it every single year. And that seems to be where it starts.
I think
I should say, that seems to be where it stops, is what I really meant to say.
And I think
they lay it out.
Right.
The talking heads on every side of the aisle, to be blunt, will go, wow, I can't believe they talked about that. And by the next day, we've all forgotten it.
It's interesting.
Chris, from serving, the Department of Defense does not make short-term transitory type plans. if they sit in front of Congress around February, which I think is usually when they do these hearings, and outline the global threat assessments, and they mention right at the top of the list, or at least damn close to the top of it, global climate change. Well, they don't mean just for the next 10 minutes or so. They're talking about every single day, every single month, every year going forward, that this is going to be an issue. We're already seeing migration of hundreds of millions of people searching
Right.
for water, running away from these areas of the planet that are on fire, or living under, I guess, downwind, downstream, if you will, from the areas of the planet that are already burnt because the trees are dead and gone. All of that soil then becomes loose. Then you get the mudslides, and on and on and on. We're already seeing it. We're seeing, the Arab Spring was not about a group of Arabs. It didn't start this way, by the way. It didn't start this way. It did kind of end this way, but it didn't start. Because they stood up and said, we need democracy. You had the farmers across the top ridge of Africa going into the cities because their farmland had turned to dust.
Yeah.
It couldn't be farmed. So they went into the cities looking for jobs. And the government told them, we're not going to help you. And they started starving in the cities.
Yeah.
And that's where the real Arab Spring started, because those people, along with their countrymen in the cities, who determined that they needed and deserved help, stood with them. And it rolled right across Africa into the Middle East. It's what started some, not all, but some. It was a contributing factor to the civil war in Syria. Syrian farmers were broke and starving because their farmland dried. And they went into the cities looking for help, and their government told them to die.
Yeah.
We're already seeing it.
I mean, the DoD has gone from saying it is a threat, by the way, to preparing for climate change impact. So
and of course, they're the largest emitters.
that means that they are transitioning to a different defense strategy, no longer pounding the alarm, being proactive in what we're going to do. This is where I don't think people are understanding it's here already.
It's going here from the back foot to the front foot, sort of.
Yeah, going from this is a risk on the horizon to actively adjusting to the risks that we're the no longer the risk, but the problem we're dealing with. Climate has changed.
Yep.
Climate's changing. It's changed. It's different. And this is the security risk. I mean, I know I have read at least 1 year, and I don't remember which year it was. It was the number one security risk. I mean, the DoD says we have to go carbon neutral by 2050. That's the DoD. This is not, some wacky Berkeley professor, right? We're not talking Berkeley, okay? I mean, this is the Department of Defense saying we have to go achieve net zero economy. U.S. has to achieve net zero economy by 2050 and carbon pollution free power sector by 2035.
On that note, Andrea Gardner, longtime friend of mine, she will not want me to admit how long, and she probably doesn't want to admit how long, mentioned, in the opening, her comment came up that New Jersey is not omitted from all of this as well, which I was able to respond and comment to her that I believe, unless I am mistaken, and please, anybody is welcome to correct me if I have this incorrect, that Governor Murphy's plan to have New Jersey carbon neutral by 2050 is still on track and did pass the legislature. And I believe, and again, anybody can correct me if I have it wrong. There's only so many things I can Google, like right in the middle of a show, and stop talking. I guess I can't walk and chew gum as much as I think I can. But New Jersey does have a plan to build offshore wind And, by the way, turbines that are not anchored to the ocean floor, which they will actually float to limit the destruction to the ocean floor as well. And that those series of offshore wind turbines will be enough to power the entire state. And that's government doing that, by the way. What a shocker. Government doing things just like we did during the New Deal. What a surprise. You know, it strikes me, Chris, you'll know from history, that I talk a lot about in this program about how the lessons to so many of our modern problems are in our own history. If we think about some of the very first environmental policies that we ever saw in this nation, we go back to the turn of the last century when Teddy Roosevelt began to preserve huge tracts of land so that they be left as is. They be left pristine. No building, no mining, no exploitation, no farming, that these lands just be left alone. Our first national parks. That the sheer beauty and majesty of them would be protected. We saw Franklin Roosevelt save the breadbasket of the country from the Dust Bowl.
Right.
The Dust Bowl being that bad practices by farmers had led to the erosion of the topsoil, and quite literally the soil had dried out and was being blown into huge dust storms across the middle of the country. Some of the very first environmental policy came from progressives.
Yeah.
And it's not something that we just did 5 minutes ago. It literally goes back over a century.
Oh yeah.
We know how to do these things. I mean, we do know how to do these things.
Hey, look, we even got in a bipartisan infrastructure bill done. We got $52 billion bipartisan for chips, semiconductor chips. We know how to do it. And we could even do it bipartisan. The Republicans could stand up and do this bipartisan. And you know what? The problem is, who's buying their drinks? Who is buying their drinks? And and I don't want to hear any of them. I don't want to hear anybody. I don't want some Marjorie Taylor Greene to go on TV 20 years from now with makeup falling down her face with tears. I didn't realize if I could go back and make a mistake. You watch those people. You watch one of them.
No. They never admit. They never admit error. They're all.
There'll be one. There'll be one who will be out of vogue. You watch. There'll be one that will no longer have any power and come on there and expect to still be in the spotlight, because to them it's about power. It's about.
Here's a very simple one for me though. The Koch brothers. I mean, taking into account the relatively recent passing of David Koch, but when the Koch brothers were at the height of their powers, and I believe they're still damn close to the height of their powers, although I do think it's slightly taken aback, because the more political of the brothers was the first to pass. But when the Koch brothers were at the height of their powers, and because a large section of their business is in oil, gas, coal, and logging, paper logs. Just sheer total climate destruction in every way. Look, whatever you might think of the Koch brothers, they're smart men. They just are. They're smart men. They're superior businessmen. They could have sold that company 100 times over, but they grew it. There were entire decades that they took every penny of profit and reinvested it back into the company.
Yeah.
They grew it and grew it and grew it and grew it. And they grew it the old-fashioned way. They worked really hard. All of that said, I am constantly fascinated, and I'm wondering if you've ever sat back and thought about this. The Koch brothers have children. They have grandchildren. They have great-grandchildren. The billions of dollars of green pieces of paper, you can stuff the lining of a casket with it, but you can't spend it in heaven.
Yeah.
Why do the very people, well, I know why they're doing it. The very people who continue to spend their billions to destroy what is left of their planet so they can make tens of billions or hundreds of billions, they have to live here too. Why do you suppose that never makes a difference or never makes a dent? I mean, is it some science fiction dystopian sort of they built a space station that we don't know about and they're all going to go live there or they're all going to
No.
go live underground? But they have kids too. And
Well,
when the sheer amount of climate destruction leads to a disintegration of governments, their children and grandchildren are going to be standing right next to the poor kids from South Central LA trying to figure out where to get a glass of water. I'm wondering why that never seems to reach anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, does any of that make sense? You know where I'm going with that?
Yeah, and I remember when Tom Sawyer with Next Gen, he was running for president and everything, was talking about the environment and everything. And he's like, yeah, I'll take a wealth tax at 1% on the 1%. And understanding, like, it was always interesting to see his kind of like almost kind of just like that shock that we have. Like, why would you not worry about the environment? Here is a billionaire who is saying
with kids and grandkids,
or just
Right.
having knowing people. Why does
Yeah.
it matter if you have kids? It doesn't matter if you know people. You're a steward, and this is an interesting generation. I was talking about this. I think it has a lot to do with Fox News and the conservative media, and they're the generation telling you basically don't trust what your kids are telling you from the liberal university, right?
Yeah.
So this is the first generation, and I don't think it's not like the baby boomers they want to leave a bad planet for their family. I think what happens is when you get stuck in propaganda, you fall in the trap of believing your own propaganda. And you can't get out of the trap of propaganda. You're in this cycle and it shows how the brain works. You keep reinforcing what you want to learn. You don't want it to be true. You can't handle the fact that what you're doing is destroying the world. So rather, you just keep looking for anything possible. You look for any excuse. And, I would say rather than being smart business people, just because I have my associate's in business degree and teach me jack about understanding the environment. But those men were engineers. They had the hard science that they understood. Okay. These were men who understood. These are men of science. They should actually have been the ones pounding the alarm. They should have been the ones saying, look, we're going to make everybody vote on a Green New Deal instead of going into Iraq. Imagine if we spent all the money we went into Iraq on a Green New Deal, where we would be today.
I would have more than paid for it, let's be blunt.
Oh, yeah.
It would have more than paid for it. In fact, it probably would have paid for it about, say, 3 times.
But this is a great example. If Iraq is a problem, why are we depending on the oil? Why not transition away from oil? We're never going to have that conversation. It is a security issue when we're importing this thing. And what you'll say? People say, well, you're being nationalistic. It'll be the first time Republicans will ever accuse that of being a bad thing. Yeah, it's the first time you'll hear Republicans saying nationalism's a problem.
Especially if we return, and this is not exactly an environmentally friendly point of view. It used to be our policy in this country I believe from President Nixon. It might have been before that, but I think it was from President Nixon. That I think the language that they used then was petroleum products, but fossil fuel products, I think except for coal, literally, if it was dug out of the ground here, it could not leave the country.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you got it from here, it had to stay. Period. There were 0 exports of oil and gas. None. It simply wasn't allowed by law. That changed in the Obama administration, and it's something that President Obama himself signed. If we stopped, or if we returned to that policy and stopped exporting those things again, we could end that foreign dependence straight away. Period. Straight away. from here in our own Commonwealth, we see that the Marcellus shale region is being fracked at an alarming rate. You know, millions and millions of cubic tons of natural gas are being extracted. They're being piped to Philadelphia and shipped out of the country instead of kept here. If we just did that, we could end that dependence. We could end it. That's not environmentally friendly point of view necessarily, but to speak to your dependence argument, we could end that if we chose to. But however, we convinced, or maybe he was a willing party, I have no idea, a Democratic president with largely Republican support in Congress to change that law, and all we've seen are steady increases in prices ever since, not to mention the continuing transfer of wealth from the United States into the Middle East, because now we have to keep, we're shipping what we're buying, which makes no sense.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
You don't grow chickens in your backyard, sell them, or sell the eggs, and then go to the grocery store to buy eggs. You use your own eggs.
Logic would dictate.
I mean, I
would understand. I would understand, like, if Texas sold some oil to Mexico, right, because of geographic location, something like that. But like, yeah, I know there's a lot of. I just don't see us taking it as a security. Well, that's part of the problem. The oil industry, is this something that is safe in the hands of the private sector? And that is, because it is such a national security risk. In the 21st century, all these wars that are going on are based on oil, right? We're in the oil wars, I call them. And, this war with Russia didn't start in the Ukraine. You know when it started? 2016, when they put their puppet in there. Am I right? And this is an ongoing Cold War that Putin started. He got away with going into Crimea. He got away with tampering in our election. And some of those ads were it wasn't a lot of ads, but they were micro-targeted, highly impactful ads. And you're an organizer. You ran for election.
Targeted. They were brilliantly targeted, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The thoughts behind it obviously were quite nefarious, but it was brilliantly done.
Yeah, and part of the problem too is, I applaud Liz Cheney for her stance today. She was just talking about today about, like, hey, look, I have to put country before the Constitution before winning my primary. Mm-hmm. It's really sad that
and she is expected to lose that primary. She's down 2-1 right now.
That is,
I believe there's 5 of them running. She's currently second, but she is down.
They're going to pump money. They're going to pump all this money into this one candidate. You can't, it's just, it's sad to see where, even though I disagreed with the Republicans of yesterday, what's sad is to see the lack of the patriotism. Like, I'm not a big Liz Cheney fan on policy, right? Her and I probably would disagree.
Liz Cheney voted with the Trump agenda, such as it was. There really wasn't much to it, but she voted. Yeah. She voted with what is regarded as the Trump agenda 96% of the time.
Yeah. But what's sad is to see her on television and remembering that's what Republicans were, and you had respect for them as the person. That's really hard for me. Is like, I want to respect people as a person and disagree with your policies. I want to have a foundation of, this is what we have, some type of foundation, and you can question that foundation and you can try to change that foundation. That's fine. But there's a process to go around it, and it is just a sad state of affairs with the other side right now. I don't know. I don't know, and like this is a national security issue, as I keep talking about. This is a climate change issue. It is from both ways. You know,
Well,
I
to go
don't get
back to
what.
that, when you said that the DoD is talking about that so many of these wars are going to be fought
Mhm.
over oil, they didn't stop there. They've actually talked about one of the results, if not the primary result, of global climate destruction, of degradation, of global heating, is going to be armed conflict over food
Yeah,
and water as
yeah,
the planet continues to heat and dry out. It is, I rarely, if ever, would point to the Saudis as any kind of bastion of ingenuity.
hmm
But Saudi Arabia is not exactly Nebraska. Not exactly, or for that matter, the breadbasket of Ukraine. It's not exactly the Amazon rainforest either.
yeah,
It's pretty much desert, period. So what did they do? They took a lot of that oil money, a good chunk of that oil money, and built massive desalinization plants
yeah,
to use not just to keep their people alive, but for tourism. You can't. Why build a city in the middle of the desert if you can't supply it with water?
right.
For the limited amount of agriculture that they can do, in an attempt to try to keep the desert green, so to speak, probably wasted way too much of it on golf courses, but that's a different topic for a different day. But that's, I have a feeling that's what's going to happen in this country. Part of the infrastructure bill, it is not part of the infrastructure bill to my knowledge, but I am thrilled to be corrected if I'm wrong. We're going to have to start building desalinization plants, or else these sections of California that are going to start to lack drinking water in the Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas.
Yeah,
They're gonna Nevada. They're gonna We're gonna have to do something else to get the water. And I think Australia, you're going to be looking at it in Australia as well. The continent of Australia as a whole is drying out
I know.
and could be quite possibly unlivable at some point because they simply won't have the water anymore. And again, we mentioned earlier in the program, you're talking about there are sections of India and Pakistan on a regular basis. I almost said a normal basis, but nothing normal about it. On a regular basis now, daytime temperatures regularly get up into the 100 teens, above 110, and into the 120s. Can you imagine living in a Pakistani village where almost everyone is impoverished? Because it is quite a poor country. Despite its
Yeah,
nuclear weaponry and nuclear power plants, it is a pretty poor country. They still have villages with no power, no heat, well, I shouldn't say no heat. That was a dumb thing to say. We say those words in secession.
no
But that's pretty
fans, no
dumb. Well,
electricity.
no electricity, no running water. Imagine sitting in a mud hut when it's 123 degrees. And when nighttime temperatures fall all the way down to the upper 80s. Can you imagine? 6:08, very late for a show reset. This is the Kennedy Effect live with you, probably just for the remainder of the hour. I am hoping to jump into another meeting that I was invited to at 7 p.m. Wherever you might be on Facebook. 104 shares this week, I checked quickly.
Woohoo!
Christopher was answering a question. 104 this week. Wherever you might be. Any of the groups or pages that allow us to be part of your group and page, we are exceptionally grateful. Any individual that watches any bit of this program, live or recorded, please feel free to share it to your friends, to your family, to your coworkers, to your list of groups. My list of groups is about 150 long. Not all of them is it appropriate for me to share this program, so I don't. But the ones I do, is it right around the 100 range? You also, I'm sure, have a list of groups. If this program is appropriate to share them in, I ask you humbly to please do so. If you had friends, family, again, crazy Uncle Larry from Thanksgiving, please feel free to share this program wherever it's appropriate. Hot101.net, our sisters and brothers, thanks for allowing us over 110,000 listeners globally. And especially in some of the affected areas that Chris and I are talking about right now. We have listeners in Australia, New Zealand, throughout the Western European continent, dotted across Africa, South and Central America, and in Canada. We thank you all for being part of this program. If you do not know how to listen to Hot101.net, it is exceptionally simple. Our name is our web address, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and the TuneIn Radio app. Go up to the search bar and search for Hot101.net. And of course, you can tell Alexa to play Hot101.net. And please do tune in to yet one of our other families that we are humbled and proud to be a part of. TCP, the Culture Professional from Lancaster, PA. The morning show returns tomorrow morning. And I was happy to return to their Facebook page today after some weird Facebook-y technical gremlins. That is it for us as far as the reset. I will type the phone number onto the screen if you're watching us on Facebook. You can join us, and I will give you that phone number for our radio listening audience in just a moment. Christopher, our dear friend, my dear friend, I'm humbled by his friendship. This is certainly not, of the 10 best things in Christopher's life, my friendship is not in that top 10, but it is in mine. He could do a lot better than being on this program every few weeks because I keep calling him and he keeps showing up.
Oh, stop it! I
We're just
absolutely
trying
love
to
it.
have.
We're having a blast on here. I love it. I
We're
absolutely
just
love
trying
it.
to
Jeff,
have
stop
a,
it.
we're just trying to have a relatively simple discussion about climate change, and this is where I want to hear from you. The chat has been very, very, very quiet, other than Andrea's kind comment, mentioning my home state of New Jersey and their role in the climate solution. I should say at this point, it's been very, very quiet in there. But we want to know what you think, what you are feeling. Kristen and I went to a rally yesterday. Actually, I tagged along to a rally that she was working at. Was just thankful not to be in the way. And we had some stuff to take out of the car this morning. And we did that around 11-ish. Already it was in the upper 80s. And I'd be curious to know what you think of this, Chris. And again, just from the theme of the program, just like what you see and feel on a day-to-day basis that tells you things are wrong. Things are different. It's not the same as when we grew up. The instant I walked out the door, I could feel the burn on my skin from the sun. Now let's be blunt. I'm about as pale as it comes, kids. If I didn't use the right kind of lights in this studio, I think I'd disappear. I think you'd probably just see straight through me. But I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be, too facetious here, but I used to tan when I was a kid. Like properly tan. Like really what we would consider a really healthy, dare I even say attractive color. If I'm in the sun for more than 3 to 5 minutes now, I will burn. Not tan, just burn. Which then blisters, peels, and I'm even whiter. Am I the only one that feels that way? Kristen tends to agree with me. I take her opinion as high as anyone on the planet. It just doesn't feel the same as when we were younger. Does that resonate with you? Do you feel that in the same way that I do? Or do you think I'm a
So
little
I have a
off there?
really different growing up experience. Until I was 10, I lived in Connecticut. So I moved into a different climate down here in southern Pennsylvania. So
Yeah.
I always know that like I know it's a really, I'm not like the best person to answer it, but I think let's think about another type of environment for a moment. And I think with the climate, it's also about when I was younger, we talk about things like running out of petroleum. That was a real issue. But here
When
was
I
the
was
interesting.
in 8th grade. Oh God, 8th grade for me would have been 1982.
Uh-huh.
My science teacher, Mr. McCormick, a Vietnam vet, combat vet, who told us a story about how every single morning he went to bed with his shoes next to the bed, which is a very military thing to do. That every morning, even after being back from combat for, at that point, would have been in the 10-year, 12-year range, that he picked his shoes up and flip them upside down to make sure there weren't scorpions in them. And how one of his fellow soldiers died from a scorpion bite because a scorpion climbed up into his boot. And that to that day, in his home, with his wife and kids, he kept his shoes by the bed,
Yep.
took them and dumped them upside down as a force of habit inside his own home. And he made us do reports on, we didn't call them fossil fuels then, we still called them natural resources.
Yeah.
Isn't that a very happy term? And told us even then that we were 30 years away from running out of oil. And here we are, 40 years later, continuing to find and pump oil.
And I think that's, Jeff, I think that is part of why the older generation is so skeptic of climate change. I think the scare
Or detached from it.
Detached from it,
way,
yeah.
In a way,
Maybe because it's like, you know,
mentally detached from it.
And I think this is one of the problems where environmentalists, they get excited, they see this report come out. It's not necessarily a meta-analysis, and they're like, oh, look at this is going to be a big problem, so we're going to tackle it all, and we're going to get to this level because, you know, it's going to run out in 30 years, so that's why we're going to tackle this. And they look for this this holy grail. They find this like one report. So if we could just get everybody to believe this, then we'll do something.
And they're writing the reports. They're the ones writing the reports.
Right. And I think that strategy has been an epic failure. I think the fact that I watched Senator Comita work really hard on getting Republicans to support a 30% renewable energy by 2030 in Pennsylvania, and watched environmental groups say, well, it's not enough. It's not going to tackle climate change. That is true. But now it's 2-3 years later, and all the money that would have went into renewable energy at that time hasn't gone into renewable energy. That's when she was Representative Comita, by the way, a little while ago. So to me, I got very frustrated by kind of, we got to do stuff. Like, I'm like, we got to do stuff. If it means, you know, I tell Congress, tell your Congress people, stay in Congress. Do not go home for recess until we get a climate deal done. And if there's compromise in it, I'm not for it. I think it should have a T on front of it, but if it still has a B on front of it, we still need to pass it. Like, we need to do whatever they're willing to do, because who knows? I mean, there's a chance that it could be another decade before Democrats get in charge again.
Is this? Do you see this as I do? And Kristen and I were actually just talking about this yesterday with some of her coworkers, that if there is a real criticism of the progressive movement, especially the young progressive movement, and God bless them for finally waking up and getting involved and realizing that they're the ones that are really getting screwed here. That problem is that they tend to get upset when we don't fix everything in the next 10 minutes.
Right.
You know, January 20th, 2021, President Biden sworn in. We go through all the ceremonies. He goes back to the Oval Office. He signs a series of executive orders, and everything's not better. Like, by the time he signs them, it's not fixed. And we tend to get, and then certainly that segment, as a general statement, not a specific to each individual, but as a generality, tends to then say, well, why are we doing this? What do we vote for? Look, we didn't fix it all.
Well,
Isn't
I wonder,
climate perhaps the best example of that? Because for what you just said, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania gives $3.2 billion every single year to the fossil fuel industry. I say it on this program probably multiple times per program.
Right.
3.2 billion over a 10-year period, $32 billion. The same as a yearly budget for the Commonwealth. In 10 years, we have handed over one whole year's worth of state budget to the fossil fuel industry. If we stopped doing that and turn that into green energy today, Chris and I snap our fingers and we make that monetary change. Climate change doesn't stop. We get that. But isn't climate change perhaps the best example of we know what we're going to get when we do nothing. Cannot fix it overnight, but for goodness sake, let's do something.
Yes, absolutely. And I also feel like in a way that's also with healthcare.
I would agree with that. Too.
And
I would agree with that too.
Like for example, now
we didn't just fix it like that, so we give up and we run away.
Right.
Well, no. These are not. It took 50 years for the Supreme Court to turn into what it is now.
Right.
I don't think it's going to take 50 years to fix it, but it took 50 years to get here.
Do you think Republicans are better at the long-term strategy?
Oh, gosh, yes, because they have the money.
They
have the money to back it up. They have the money to hang in there.
But do you think it's also a cultural thing? But do you think it's also like a cultural thing of this is something
Hang on, Randall, we will get to you. Hold on. Sorry, Randall called. I'm going to get to it. We're on a roll. I'll get to it.
Well, yeah, but like for them, it's like this is starting with the Reagan Revolution. We have 40 years. I think some believe that it's going to be 1,000-year conservative reign. They really have talked about 1,000 years.
Because but if
I think it was Roe
from the end of the Civil War to the Republican Great Depression in the late 20s, we thought that was going to last forever too.
Right. I don't think. I agree with you.
So
I agree with you. These things
are very
crash,
cyclical.
but not in their mind. In their mind,
right.
I'm talking about in their mind.
They're very cyclical.
Yeah.
Randall, go ahead. Thanks for being patient. And why are you sick? And don't get sick. I demand that you end being sick immediately. You did not get my permission. You do not get my permission to be sick, and so I demand that you end it immediately and get better.
I guess I should have said I'm feeling mentally under the weather.
Oh, well, join the club.
Yeah.
I just talked to the Ken Fredericks today.
Oh.
And
yay.
He's the fifth close friend in the last 2 weeks that, even though we're all fully vaccinated and boosted. I know where you're going. 5 of my closest friends are fighting COVID. This new variant. That's
right. That's all right. You don't have to do anything.
It's just like measles. It's growing up, and the measles would go through the whole elementary school because there was no vaccines back then.
Yeah.
We'll get there. It's
just like that.
The only thing I could say about that. I don't want to drift into a COVID discussion necessarily, but with respect to what you're saying, and your comment deserves respect, I don't want to say I'm not. I don't want to say. Well, no, actually, I will say I am not panicked about it. Is it still concerning to me? Is it still important? Is it still an issue? Absolutely. It appears again that it's. This most recent variant, again, is, what is it, BA5, I think, is it?
0.5.
Yeah.
BA.5.
BA.5.
So,
0.5.
it is, as with some of the previous variants, it is increasingly contagious, but the symptoms appear to be relatively light, especially if you've been vaccinated. Again, it's pretty much more cold-ish type symptoms that in no way, to be clear, does that mean it is anything you should ignore or just the heck with it or need to worry about it. But at least, thankfully, the variants that we have seen so far, although they are increasingly contagious, they do not appear to be they appear to be less deadly, and that
and can I
respectfully, I'll take that.
I want to chip in on this.
Go ahead.
Two things.
Kevin
Oh, go on, Randy. Do you have something?
Went did his annual trip to Guatemala.
Yes.
His seminar he runs on domestic abuse, and he said, he had to test negative to get on the first flight, but he said it took 3 flights, 3 different airports, and he doesn't know, obviously, because he said, Randall, I wore a mask, everywhere, always have, always will, same here. I go in the store, for only 15 minutes, and I swear I'm the only person that's got a mask on in the whole store. It's just nuts. But anyway, getting back to world environmental.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever had a chance to read. It was published in 1963. Soil and Grain. It starts out. It's 98 degrees at midnight in New York City. There's no food. Everything's dead. And that's when they started Soil and Grain, or recycled bodies. It's been projected by many science fiction writers. What a good possibility is that we are there. That's the sad part. We are there.
There's already several client scientists that I know, specifically the one is in Scandinavia, and there was actually one at Penn State. Because there's a couple at Penn State. There's the one that, and I always forget his name, Michael Mann, who is on with Professor Mann, M-A-N-N, who's on with Tom Hartman a lot, who still thinks that we can get back from the breach. There's one of his colleagues has already said, nope, too late, we're already all dead.
Yeah.
Might as well forget about it. We should still try to mitigate some things, because somebody's going to survive. We could try to make it better for them. There's a climate scientist in Sweden who, I've seen a picture of him. He is he almost looks like a greeting card character. He's a very gruff, looking old guy, and he's like, it's too late. We're already all dead. We just didn't figure, not enough of us figured it out yet, but it's already too late. Although his message again is the same, that we still need to try to do these climate mitigating things, because for the, I'm using his numbers, for the few thousand of us that are left, we could try to make it better for them. Professor Mann, who I think is probably the most visible and or recognizable climate scientist, he is also at Penn State, has said some of the change is permanent, but we're not so far gone that we can't come back. And that the 1.3 degrees that we've already risen Celsius global temperature, we probably can't get that back, but we can work on not getting any worse. So that's right. That seems to be about where we are at the moment. Go ahead, Randall. I just want to color in what you were discussing. These are not, Randall mentions scientific writers who have written about this. It's true. They do write these sort of dystopian type stories, but these stories are based on something. I mean, they're not that dystopian, if you understand what I'm saying. Go ahead, Randall.
They were at the time they were written, but now...
Right, exactly. You are correct.
It's like they foresaw where we are going. And it's, nuts.
Well, let me ask you, Randall.
Record today.
It is.
All-time record for high on this date.
Let me ask you. You've, respectfully, sir, you've been around the sun a few more years than me. When you walk out your door on a day like today, I'm not just saying because it's hot, but just everything about it. You know, I mentioned the sun earlier, just how burning the sun is. I mean,
Right.
this isn't this current summer that we're in. How many summers like this do you remember when you were a kid? My guess is,
I don't remember any.
well, I was going to say, my guess is probably none. I mean, that's kind of the theme that we're trying to discuss on the show today is you know something's wrong.
Yeah.
It just isn't the same. Summer isn't the same. Spring isn't the same. Fall isn't the same. You just know it's not the same.
We get shorter and shorter springs and shorter fall.
Well, I would say they move. They seem to have migrated. Winter goes deeper into February, March, April. Spring goes deeper into June. Summer goes deeper into September, October. Fall goes deeper into December, arguably even January. We're seeing that like the whole wheel is kind of turning. Like the whole clock is kind of turning. That 12 o'clock isn't 12 o'clock anymore. It's kind of over around 2. Like everything seems to be skewing, if you will. Anyone?
Yeah, no, I think two things I wanted
I just
to.
want to say, Christopher, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you, Randy. I think you are the most person to talk on this show, actually. He might. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can you hear
that's
me?
right. He can't because I have the phone held up because the phone software isn't working. He actually can't, and he's doing the right thing by not listening to the radio at the same time that he's trying to be on his
Okay.
phone. So actually, he can't. He really can't hear you. I just thought about that science. I cannot get this phone program to work for the life of me, and George and I have not been able to find a suitable replacement. So the phone thing has been a little, has really been a bugaboo. It's really been my nightmare. It's a ghost. It is haunting me. This phone thing's been going on for 2 months. I think somewhere around 2 months, and I simply can't get it fixed, and it's driving me crazy. So I can talk to Randall. He can hear me. The only
I
way
can
to
hear
be
you,
able to-
Randall.
Yeah, Chris can hear you, but Randall can't hear Chris. It's a thing. I need to find something better to fix this damn thing. I actually need to find a way to plug a phone into the computer. Then I think I can fix it. But that's a whole different topic. Go ahead, Randall. Just let me get your whatever thoughts you have remaining, and we'll get on.
High school, 69-70 academic year, and I bunked school. Second semester senior. I bunked school on the first Earth Day in Philadelphia. We're up in the plateau at Bear Park, and you had Todd Rundgren, grew up here in Delaware County, Upper Darby. You had his first band, Naz, who already had an album out. They played that day. Allen Ginsberg wrote a special poem that day. The title was "It Doesn't Mean Shit to a Tree," and that was on the environmental things that were number one at that time, which was clean air, clean
Mhm.
water. That's what we were fighting for, the environment at that time. But obviously, decades and decades, we're fighting for the planet's life and its animal life and its human population life. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And
Well,
so I can turn back.
You can
I'm
right.
sorry.
No, I was just gonna follow something that you said, and then I thank you for ringing me
Okay.
as always. You take care of yourself. You got it.
Vice versa, both to you and Kristen.
Thanks, Randall.
And everybody else listening.
You got it, my brother. Thank you so much. I want to follow up though on something that Randall said, Chris, and that is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has a constitution.
Yep.
And very near the beginning of it, it guarantees all residents of the Commonwealth clean air, water, and land.
Yep.
Someone, I'm blanking on the name, because I had a discussion with the Delaware River Keepers about getting them on the program. And one of their members actually did sue the Commonwealth in court that they had violated their own constitution and continue to do so on a daily basis. And she won that case, but we haven't exactly seen a lot change. What are your general thoughts on that? Our own constitution, where you and I live, guarantees us clean air, water, and land, and yet 3.2 billion.
Here's the problem. The problem is that people don't realize that the polluters are not paying the cost, right? So when somebody pollutes it, somebody destroys it, they don't pay the cost.
Internalizing the profits and externalizing the costs.
Exactly. And that's
you and
why
I pay for they poison the land, air, and water, and you and I pay for it.
Exactly. And that's the problem that I don't think so many people are aware of. Like this is a huge cost. And now the Supreme Court is saying basically you can't regulate it. The Supreme Court is throwing out environmental regulations. That is a very dangerous road the court has gone down. This court has gone wild. I don't think people are following. And I don't think some people are aware of how bad it could get. You know, and I think this upcoming election is very more critical than people realize.
I have my own opinion, obviously. It's kind of why I'm here. And I tend to talk an awful lot. You've been here enough on this program. We've talked offline so many times that it's the money, you moron. It all comes down to the money.
Yep.
Why do you think environmentalism and or environmental protections, et cetera, are so political?
A couple of things.
What is political about being able
a couple
to
of things.
Yeah, what is political about being able to
So-
go to your tap and have the water not be on fire?
So it is. I think it comes down to business culture. And the culture was built around the industrialization, and there was this romanticizing of what oil did. Oil greased the machine of the Industrial Revolution. And it became, and even though it's an antiquated, outdated way that's causing much harm, it became a cultural war. A war for pro-business culture. They're a community, and you need to stick together on it. And it really has destroyed so much. It goes to, you know, and I think because it was a hard aspect in the 70s, with the gas crisis and the environmental regs were very hard for people. They're not understanding the new technology we have. It's not the 1970s. We can do this. I'm saying 100% would be painful, yes, but 80% renewable is very easy. So why not get to 80%?
Yeah.
You know, like that's like where I think for a lot of and they don't, they're people, I think the people who go into business, and let's say maybe they're pro-union, maybe they kind of have a decent mindset, maybe they go work at an automaker, and yeah, they're cool with the transition and they're excited about General Motor introducing electric cars. Okay, well, that could be them. The designer of the new Cadillac Lyriq could, the people who's the executive or the CEO of Cadillac could be all cool about it. You got a lot of CEOs out there outside of this. It's a few. It's a few people really too. That's the other thing. It's not everybody. I think that's one of the things to be aware. The few people, and gosh, do they spend a lot of money on it. That's the hard thing is
You mean the few people that are stopping it?
yeah,
Few people
stopping
that-
stopping
I agree. I happen to agree. It is a minority.
I think sometimes in the business
very, very
community,
small
I think
minority.
labor has it right in terms of it's a few, not the many.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there who are understanding. Now, they may not agree with my viewpoint of trillions on energy change. Okay. But they would be behind Biden's 150 billion dollar plan.
Well, maybe.
And I just think there's such a I really think it comes down to the Reagan Revolution. We're gonna deregulate everything. Anything that's regulation,
Every
it's gonna
freaking thing comes down to Reagan.
it really does. This was Reagan when Reagan took who was the leader? Reagan. What did he do? He took the solar panels off the White House.
Yep.
And
Within the
this
first 6 weeks of his swearing in, he took solar
now did
panels off
did his library burn down? It was near to burning
Uh,
down.
I didn't hear that.
It was. I know it got near there. I don't know if it did or not. I knew there was a report it might burn down. Ironically,
I was going to say
climate change may take his library. I
There's
just
a
find
karmic.
yeah. There's a karmic
something very
aspect.
karmic about that.
So yeah.
We got about 20 minutes left. Why don't we try to be a little positive?
Sure.
So let me lay out a couple positives. And again, these are not. We get so fixated in the fact that we didn't solve this crisis in 5 minutes, so I give up and I hate everybody.
Right.
And figuratively speaking, burn it all down, and all you politicians are the same. Blah 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 blah. The Scandinavian countries, I believe all of them now, you cannot buy a fully gasoline engine.
Yep.
In those countries, believe the Netherlands has done the same. France will be doing that by 2030, I think.
I believe so.
I think the UK might be a little after that. If you just watch TV, whatever type of program that you might watch that is heavily laden with auto ads, they are primarily electric ads now.
Yeah.
The Volkswagen ID4, you mentioned the Cadillac Lyric. There was even an ad campaign that just sort of wrapped up because I haven't seen it in a while for the oh goodness, I'm going to forget the name of it now. Not Liquid. Oh goodness, I'm forgetting the name of the car. Right as I was going to say it.
Or even the one you want, the Jeep Wrangler.
Well, even for goodness sakes, they even make one of the icons of militarism, the Jeep, in a hybrid now.
Or if we're
just
really
saw
going to
the
go
ad.
after it, the Hummer.
Yeah,
You could have
an all electric Hummer, a 100%.
The whole brand's going to be the whole
Hummer.
brand is electric.
The Chevy just released the Trailblazer in a fully electric.
Yeah.
Ford is changing their manufacturing to a point. I know they had announced this. I don't know if they are there quite yet. That pick a body, pick an engine. We'll build it for you. So if you want a fully electric Explorer, done. We'll order it. You order it with what you want in it, and we'll build it. We see Hyundai's got a couple. The Kia is a really sharp-looking vehicle, by the way. I think the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is a little pedestrian, but I do think the Kia looks like a spaceship, and that's kind of cool to me. Kristen, very desperate. We are both in need of cars. We're going to be spending a tremendous amount of money on vehicles sometime in the near future. We would both love to get electrics. I don't have any idea how we would charge it here, but we would love to. Range on electrics has gone from, the 90, 100, 120. Right now, what seems to be standard is at least 225, 250. One of them, again, it's the one I can't remember.
Lyric Air. Lyric Air that goes
Lyric Air,
500.
thank you. That's
That
what it
goes
is. The Lyric
500
Air
mile.
goes 500 plus, which of course it's a $90,000 car too, but that's something,
No.
But
That's a
it goes
beautiful car.
It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. I still wouldn't have it because I don't want a four-door saloon car, but it's.
Come on.
I prefer my higher up off the ground cars. But that said, yeah, the Lyric Air will go 550 miles on a charge. I mean, that's
I think it's Lucid.
Lucid Air.
Lucid,
Lucid
not
Air.
Lyric. Lyric is the Cadillac.
Lyric is the Cadillac. But it's 550 miles.
Yeah.
On a charge. I see some hope here.
Oh, yeah.
Because the leading cause of fossil fuel emissions is still motor vehicles. And look, we're still going to need gas and diesel for heavy trucking.
Mm-hmm.
And in all likelihood for freight trains, possibly not passenger, but for freight trains, there's still going to be a need for that. But if we can begin to change over our automobiles, especially here in the United States where we are so married to our automobiles, they simply don't use cars in Europe the same way we do because their mass transit and public transit is so much more developed than ours. But so I do kind of see some hope that when I turn on the TV, it's this electric, that electric, that electric, that electric, this hybrid, that one, that one. There is a tiny bit of hope, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's that, and I do see technology. One of the things I'm really excited about is that Google and Chevron just launched a $1 billion fusion deal. Fusion is kind of the holy grail of renewable, like energy. Like if we can get to the fusion, it's like the warp drive coil in Star Trek. It really looks like that. It really is something like that. The warp drive, what we need. So,
well, let's back up. Fusion, for those who don't know, very, very simple. It really actually is very simple. It's very scientific and wonky, but it actually is very simple. There are two ways you can use an atom, a hydrogen atom, to generate tremendous amounts of energy. You can split it in half, which is fission, our traditional, not going fission, but our fission, F-I-S-S-I-O-N, I think I have that right, well, is our traditional method of generating nuclear power. That's why, and it's also why we get so much waste and radioactive water. It releases a tremendous amount of energy, but it also releases a tremendous amount of radiation. Fusion is taking two hydrogen atoms and literally fusing them together to make a helium atom. When that happens, a tremendous amount of energy is released, and it is quote-unquote clean energy because it does not release radiation and it does not release carbon. If you need to know a nice easy example of a fully functional, very functional fusion engine, fusion generating station, it's about 70 million miles from you. The fusion it generates, it generates all the energy that we use on the entire planet for 1 year, every minute. It's called the sun. Suns are fusion generators.
Yep.
And we are simply talking about trying to replicate that, obviously on a much smaller scale, here on Earth. So please, Chris, please continue.
Yeah,
so fusion is what we're talking about.
What has started, they have 2030 has been the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're talking 2025. I think
the Brits, I think just a few weeks ago, you probably saw this. They had a, what was it, a 1 point something second sustained fusion.
Yeah, it was enough to generate like a house for a day.
Well, and that sounds like nothing. Like, oh wow, yeah, that's super scientific. They generated a fusion reaction for a whole second and a half. Well, that was a huge leap forward.
It was a huge leap forward, yeah.
It was
The-
an amazing. It was a. it was
Here
a
is the thing: the
huge leap
fusion is
forward.
so powerful. The problem has been, it's too hot. It gets too hot.
It kind of
It's
burns itself out.
there's no material that will be able to contain it and
Sustain it
sustain.
and sustain it because
Yeah.
it will actually over. I don't want to say overfuses, but it tends to burn itself out. Let's put it that way. Runs through the fuel very quickly.
Yeah.
And
But
can't
there's enough
sustain.
fuel for like millions of years for it on the Earth, in the ocean,
Mhm.
millions and millions of years. So, yeah, I think, and I think this is the one thing where you can do something positive. I think hopefully, maybe we can get something out of Washington. Senators have just started saying, look, we're going to stay. You want more time? We'll give you time. You don't get to
Fusion
go
power
home.
plants could power domestic and a large amount of industrial usage in very short order. If we could
If we could
that
get fusion
sustained,
online, yeah. If we could just get through the fusion,
it
that's
really,
actually what it was funny. That's what I was actually referring to. I talked with Senator Comita the other day, and I was like, I said, did you read about it? She's like, no, they're investing over $1.3 billion. These two companies, into it. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I'm like, yeah, we needed fusion yesterday. That, it was the other day I would say that because, yeah, I am excited. I think there's so many ways that we can fix this. I just think we just need to get America back on track. Like we can do this. It's not, I think of the greatest generation. Part of what made the New Deal era so great was that generation. We just need their
yeah.
we
They,
need their
they won a
attitude.
world war, put a man on the moon, built the
Yeah.
greatest industrial society in the history of the planet,
Built
the
great
largest middle
society.
built the largest middle class in the history of the planet. Yeah, the greatest generation did an awful lot of stuff, and there's nothing saying that this generation or combination of generations could not do the same thing because we already have.
Here's another cool fact. I googled about the Air, that car that travels 500
The
miles.
Lyric, yeah.
Oh no, Lucid.
Lucid. I got it.
Lucid Air.
Yeah,
Lucid Air. I know. Lyric and Lucid. They're making their names all sound the same. So Lucid Motors, the horsepower is 933 horsepower.
Yep.
And you go 500 miles. Like electric cars are here. So, and if they don't pass it, in August, then you know what we need to do? We need to send Fetterman to the Senate. We need to send Susan Wild back. We need to send Chrissy Houlihan. We need to send all our new people back. We need to, and get it passed next year. That's what we need to do. We need to be motivated. We need to look at what's going on, and we need to get our butts in line and get out there. That's the positive change. You be the change you want to see.
I think it was the Chinese, but I could be wrong. An engineer built and tested a solar car.
Mm-hmm.
And the test was actually, it was a wild success.
Yeah.
But it was also actually comical in the sense that they kept waiting for the car to stop. And it just didn't. It just kept going. And the test ended up being several hours. You can Google all this and find it. The car is ugly as sin. Let's just be blunt. It's brutal to look at. But it works. And it's another step forward. Because these technologies always get improved upon. Somebody will figure out how to make it better looking and more functional so that people want to buy it. But the bottom line is that the mechanics inside of it and the panels that covered the bonnet, the roof, and the boot were enough to keep the car running. And running. And running. And running.
You sound like the Energizer battery commercial.
Well, they were expecting... They tested it in one of the salt flats in California. And so they had great sunshine. That certainly is a factor in the test. But they also thought, we think that we're going to be using more energy out of the car than we're going to be absorbing through the panels. So let's see how far we get. Well, it ended up that energy transfer from sunlight to panel to operation was seamless, and they just kept driving.
That's amazing.
So we can do these things. The Chinese have built a solar road.
Yeah.
It charges your electric car as you drive. The bullet trains that we see all over Asia and Western Europe, they're electric.
Yeah.
We can do these things. I love challenging self-identified Republicans. We
Mhm.
can't do that. It's too expensive. We can't do that. We can't do that. You just talked about the greatest generation. You know, we went to the moon. When did we become the country of can't?
Yeah.
The United States has never been the country of can't. We've never been the country of that's too expensive. We've never been the country of we don't have the wherewithal, we don't have the means, we don't have the people, we've never been that country. If we
Yep.
wanted to have a Western European style electric bullet train grid in this country, then damn it, we'll build one. So when did we stop being that country? What is that? Does that? I mean, have you ever used that argument? Is that an argument that you make with folks? When did we become can't?
I think that's the argument you have to make. I think we have to remind people a lot of the approaches we used during the New Deal era. I think it is important to look at that. And I think that's really going to influence a lot of this next political system. The Reagan system is dying. That's why we can't get climate change passed. That's why we can't get this. Well, there's no rationality that Republicans aren't putting together a $500 billion energy policy. It's because they're trying to still live in the ghost of the Reagan era.
And isn't that the lesson that we have to teach younger folks? Not to stay off my lawn, shake my finger at the younger folks, but isn't that kind of the lesson that we need to tell them? It took 50 years to get to the Supreme Court we have now. Politics got us into this, and it's going to be politics that gets us out.
And how
when you see a decision like the overturn of Roe come down, and you think to yourself, well, the heck with this. I voted, I rallied, I registered, I phone banked, I texted, and we still got screwed. The hell, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. That's exactly the time when you need to double down. We didn't get here overnight. We didn't go from Jerome Powell to Neil Gorsuch in overnight. It took 50 years to get here.
I will say this. I was very hopeful when I went to these pro-choice rallies because I seen a lot of young women stepping up and being leadership. I think a lot of times this is their chance. This is their generation's chance to say, you know what, 2022, let's break the cycle. Let's give Democrats another 2 years. Let's flip the House in Harrisburg and the Senate. And this is their generation's chance. I don't know if they're going to step up and take it, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that, that they come up, and polling shows right now that Democrats are on the pathway to get 53 seats in the Senate. And we're winning the generic ballot. We can talk all day and all night about being negative on ourselves, but that's where the polling is at this moment. Now, will it change by November? Of course. It always changes by November. It's way too far to know what's going to happen. It could be
the real ad spending has not started yet.
Right. But I think Fetterman's going to get it. I think Fetterman's going to get it. I think we're going to bring in a new generation.
I think Mr. Warnock is going to stay in the Senate as well.
Yep.
Georgia, Reverend Warnock is going to stay as well.
I think Paul
just two of them, just to pull.
Tim Ryan is going to make it in Ohio.
He's going to win in Ohio. I do absolutely.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be on a right path. And I think in Wisconsin, Johnson's going to lose. I think Johnson has gone too radically weird off the cliff of all kind of things. Yeah. Well, I can't even keep track of what he's doing anymore. I don't even know. I don't even be like, what am I supposed to commentate on him anymore?
That is one way to put it. You don't even know where he's coming from.
And then the icing on the whole cake is this Doug Mastriano dude. Mm-hmm. What in the galaxy? What in this Milky Way? He doesn't even belong in this Milky Way, okay?
Watch out for Charles Booker in Kentucky as well.
Yeah.
Against Rand Paul. Keep an eye on that one. Mr. Booker should have been the nominee 2 years ago against Mitch McConnell. And party structure in Kentucky shoved everything toward Amy McGrath, and she got her head handed to her. That wasn't even close at the end of the day. $100 million, you know, all the support you could have wanted from everywhere around the country. We're finally going to take out Mitch McConnell. At the end of the day, it was a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Watch Mr. Booker.
And now talking about party apparatus, Mr. Committee Man, fellow committee man, I should say. You know, we got to be the change. We got to be out here. We got to be doing it. So well, it looks like the time is getting near Radio Land.
It is.
So I'll sign off and let you.
So we're doing a quickie tonight. I actually do need to be on another meeting. Let me tell you what's coming up on the program. I honestly do not know if I'm going to be with you next week. I know that sounds very strange to say that I don't know, but I honestly don't know. Kristen and I are going to be at a wedding this weekend. We're supposed to be staying out in Central PA. You know, I don't know about Friday night, but definitely Saturday night into Sunday. She has another event to go to on Sunday. I do not know if I'm going with her. We still are with one car. My car is still being worked on. We're on the 2-month mark. The car is still being worked on. I simply don't know if I'm going to be back here in time to start a program with you. I also have no guests lined up, to be blunt. I do not know at all if I'm going to be here next week. Please keep an eye on all of your Facebook outlets to know whether we are going to be with you. Our home group Facebook page, that other side of information. I also post show announcements at our Revolution Pennsylvania, the TCP homepage, Hot101 homepage. Just keep an eye out. We will let you know if we will be here. I don't think so, but I'm not 100% on that. So please stay with us, and we will let you know. Yeah, just a brief show tonight, because again, we were not expecting to be here with you. I'm so grateful to Christopher for jumping in, for Randall for calling. Just kind of give it some thought to what we were thinking about today and what we were talking about today. The next time you walk out your front door, just kind of see if you can orient your brain to give it a thought as to just stop for a second and just feel the sun on you, feel the heat, feel the remarkable dryness that has been in the air here in Pennsylvania for the amount of heat that we've had. It's actually a Vegas style heat. Really, really hot, but also really, really dry. Usually when it's this hot, you get thunderstorms at the end of every single day. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen rain here, I think, any substantial rain here in almost 10 days. So all the grass is brown and it crunches under your feet. And it did not take long for it to get that way. So just think about what we talked about today. It's not about trying to ram climate science down your throat. We're asking you, the next time you walk out your door, think to when you were a kid. And does it feel the same to you? Do the summers feel the same? And it doesn't. You don't have to be here in Pennsylvania to think about it. Our great Hot101.net family and listeners are quite literally around the globe. If you're in Australia and your continent is on fire, if you're in New Zealand, experiencing a change in your weather patterns, especially precipitation patterns. Africa, I don't have to talk to you about how the Sahara itself is growing. It's expanding. The amount of land that can be used for farming is shrinking. The Western European continent, you're on fire. Canada is having a warmer summer than it ever has. They had heat warnings in Alaska. It's in the 80s and 90s in Alaska. Just the next time you walk out your front door and you're going to work, you're going to take a walk, you're going to the pool, you're going to get groceries, just maybe take a step back and think. Or think back to the last couple of weeks and just think, is this really what it used to be like when I was younger? And I should think the answer you're going to find is no, it's not. For us here in the Northeast, mid-Atlantic states, in the winter, we don't always get as much snow as we used to. Sometimes you'll see that we got as much snow as we did in the last 10 years. We got, 40 inches this year, 40 inches that year, but we get 32 of those inches in one snowfall, and then nothing. That's not normal. Kristen and the family and I went to Rehoboth Beach in Delaware in early May. We had hurricane-like storm. It lasted 4 days. It was not an official hurricane, I'm not saying that. But wind, rain, driving rain, rain that makes it stings, wind gusts in the 50, 60, 70, 80 mile an hour range for 4 days. That's not normal. But it kind of is becoming normal. And that's the point. So just give it some thought to what we had to say today. I hope you took something away from it. Sometimes the more relaxed and generalized conversations are the better ones. I know it's a short show. I do need to jump to another meeting. But to everybody here, every single Facebook page, every person, every individual, every single one of you at Hot101.net, especially my family of fellow DJs and operators, so to speak, at Hot101 and TCP. I'm so grateful for all of you. We couldn't do this program without you. If no one was listening, we wouldn't be here. It's just that simple. But you have been. We're at 3.5 years now. I still love being here with you. I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful that you're listening and paying attention. Let me just quickly take you through this. If you missed any of this shortened program, this will be up on YouTube. George will do his video conversion, and it will be up on YouTube. I should think he's been really quick lately. I should think by Tuesday or Wednesday. And we miss George. We hope to have him back with us in the program. We got a lot going on at home. You know, they have elderly family members that they're taking care of. They had a big storm up there. They got some house issues, and it's just George is alive. He's fine. His wife Lynn is alive. They're fine. He's been battling some illnesses. She has illnesses. It's just been a bad family 2022 so far for George. But he is still part of our program. He is my dear friend. I'm grateful for his friendship. I'm humbled by it. And he still does a lot of the production stuff behind the scenes. It's just that, his life gets in the way sometimes. Life happens. And because we don't get paid doing this, you got to take care of other things first. So we miss George. We hope to have him back with us, here online on the program as soon as possible. But he'll convert this for us. It'll be on YouTube. I should think, again, probably by the absolute latest, like Wednesday. But he's been doing them usually either tonight or on Monday. You can go to YouTube, youtube.com, that other side of information, just like our Facebook page, that other side of information to see all of our episodes. So we will be there. But please share our program with your friends and family, coworkers, to other groups on Facebook, to other YouTubers. I forgot to do a TikTok today. It's not a good thing. But just hang in there. It's been a choppy year. It's been a strange year. I think this is the first time that we've been with you for 3 straight weeks all year. So thank you. They keep calling me. Stop calling me. That one is not a call to the show. That is a marketing call that I get every day, every Sunday at 7 and something. So just stick with us. I know that this schedule's been quite jumpy, but please stick with us. So we had to do a short one for you today, but we will return. I do not know if we will be with you next week. I know that sounds very strange. You would think I would know that. I honestly don't. Don't know what the car situation is going to be. Don't know how long we're going to stay out of the area, and so on and so on. But just keep an eye on the Facebook page. And one last thing, if I could let you all know. Anywhere in the United States, anywhere, California, Washington, Oregon, Nebraska, Idaho, Mississippi, North Carolina, Florida, Maine, I don't care. If you are a candidate, any candidate, Republican or Democratic, for state or federal office, and you want to be a guest on this program, or you would be kind enough to join us, you let us know. Or if you know of a friend, family member, you might be working for a candidate, etc., state or federal, the program is open for the rest of the summer, right up to general election day, for candidates. We can do one-on-ones, we can do an hour, half hour, 4 hours. We could have half a dozen candidates on for 4 hours. So the program is open to candidates for federal and state level offices anywhere in the United States. You are welcome here. The airwaves are yours, whether we agree or not, Democratic or Republican. You're welcome here. Let's have a conversation. For Whitney, Marquise, Andrew, and Taekwon at TCP. They are our TCP family. For DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and everyone, literally everybody, at Hot101.net. For April Riddick, whose friendship is a gift to me every single day, who is responsible for getting me on the air. And of course, for my better half, Kristen, who I need to run and join in a meeting. I am Jeff Kennedy. We thank you for being here. Hey, maybe even like the shorter program better, because then I shut up sooner. But thank you for being here. We appreciate you so very much. We love you. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Stay tuned to the Facebook page. We'll let you know when we return. If we do not return on the 31st, 24 and 7 is 31, then we will return on April 6th, I think it is. So stay with us. Pay attention to the Facebook page. Thank you for being here. Please take care of yourselves. Until next time.